Welcome, welcome! It's my dog with the Texas Space Navy bringing you another Star Citizen video. And today I thought I would tackle Tony Zervik's Quantum, Quasar, and Virtual AI video. If you don't know who Tony Zervik is, he is the producer, the head guy in charge of the persistent universe of Star Citizen. Yes, Chris Roberts is ultimately the head of the studio, but Tony Zervik is the one in charge of the big, massive multiplayer online version of Star Citizen that is the persistent universe. Whenever Tony talks, people listen because it's always something really good, or he's just a brilliant guy. He knows his stuff. He knows exactly what he wants to do, how he's going to get there. He's just a really intelligent guy. This was a fantastic video, probably the best video I've seen by Tony Zervik, and he's had some good ones. And he just does a phenomenal job of explaining the back-end services that will run the Star Citizen persistent universe. So if you're interested in everything this game is supposed to be, this is the video you should actually pay attention to. Yeah, gameplay videos are great, but this back-end, AI run server, this is the nuts and bolts. This is what's going to bring the entire thing alive. It's not just players. This is going to be NPCs. As you know, the universe is supposed to be 90% NPCs and 10% of us, player characters. So that means there's got to be some good NPCs. And if you haven't checked out the AI lately, they're still standing on chairs. Sometimes the guns stop shooting, when you're fighting ships. So the AI is not in the best shape, or at least not for the current server situation. Now, he did mention how iCache is mostly in, which is a very important thing to note. Server meshing really is the biggest hurdle that we're waiting on before any of this gets put in. I'm going to attempt to go over a lot of what he says in a fairly quick manner, almost noobifier the video. Noobifier did do a video on this, but it wasn't in his typical Noobifier manner, at least not completely. He wanted you to hear Tony Z talk, and I just recommend you go watch the video. But I'm going to try to sum it all up here for you as best I can, and who knows, maybe this video will be less in length than Noobifier's was, which would be amazing because I'm usually long-winded. So, shall we go right into it? Let's talk about the definitions first. He's going to talk about quantum. On the back-end side, quantum is the simulation of the game universe that evolves around changes over time in realistic ways. So it's the simulation that will evolve and change as everything else changes in the verse. Quanta is a lightweight AI NPCs that, based on unique attributes, compete with players for the same economic resources. So in other words, these are NPCs that are going to be, trying to mine the same nodes you are, or at least get a better deal for the mining ores that you would normally get, or they're going to compete in salvage or bounties, or maybe they're pirates. So these are all the NPCs, really. Proficiencies are the multiplier on how well quanta perform a certain task. So how well do these NPCs perform tasks like combat, manufacturing, science, trades? That's what proficiencies are going to be, and that's going to shape some of what these NPCs do, as well as traits, which are going to determine what quanta prefers, such as like jobs that prefer aggression, morality, intelligence, ambition. So there's all going to be all these skills that each quanta is going to have. It's kind of like a D&D character when you're, making one up. It's going to have different attributes and a personality. So what kind of personality that this quanta is going to have? All right, let's talk about quantum optimization. The quantum simulation ran at last year's CitizenCon was written in TypeScript. It's a slow language that limited the simulation to less than 10,000 quanta. So that's 10,000 NPCs, more or less. The simulation now has been rewritten into C#, allowing for over 100,000 quanta, and that's per system or per server. So much better. I mean, it's 10 times better. If you don't know, C Sharp's been around a long time. It's a very used programming language. So, a web-based tool called Odin has been created, allowing for real-time data interpretation of the game's economy based on the actions of both players and NPCs. So they can use Odin to do all sorts of awesome things. It's highly developed already. So some of the quantum analytics that Odin will allow you to do. So player actions are fed back into quantum so that they can be factored into the simulation, which Odin can then visually display using things like graphs and heat maps. These analytics allow developers to clearly see which areas are desirable for which types of players and missions are popular, and which locations are underutilized, which missions might be broke. They receive all sorts of feedback, and they can adjust missions if they're too easy, too difficult, and not appealing. So one instance of this is the refining gameplay released last year. It's kind of taking advantage of this quantum analytics. So it'll be implemented in other services like cargo, repair, and refueling in the future. They can't completely and fully bring in this AI back-end system until those mechanics are in, because it's got to learn from all the mechanics there that are available so that it can have a much better interpretation on how it should guide the NPCs, what stuff it should present for players, etc. Spatial fidelity was another topic they talked about, so how data can be visualized in 3D space. So example, resource services allow for quantum to see or interact with specific concentrations of minerals on planetary surfaces. So quanta, or NPCs, can then reduce concentrations of mined resources, and exploration ships can find new resources and broadcast that information for more NPCs in their organization, which will come and mine the new nodes. So it's just a complete system here. Those NPCs that are exploring that planet will find a node. They'll let their other organizational NPCs know about it. They'll go in and mine, and that exploration ship will keep looking for more. It's the same thing for player characters. If your organization finds a huge node out there of, Laranite, it's going to be all hands on deck, so to speak, to get that Laranite and sell it, or refine it and sell it. So it's no different for the NPCs. But this is all going to be run by the back-end system that Odin will be able to manipulate. So it's now been integrated into the server back-end and will be built and shipped with the future release of the game. So in other words, the next patches that come out will have some version of Odin and these back-end quanta and quantum built into it. So that's really awesome that they already have some integration going into the game. Looking ahead, future releases of Quantum, the plan is to gradually integrate it into the game, replacing the current algorithmic logic that dictates prices and availability. So the first rollout is for fuel, repair, and commodity prices. Next will determine piracy, freighters, and security in system, or in that solar system. So really awesome. I can't wait to see this in action, like many other people as well. So in part 2, we talked about virtual AI. Currently, the system uses subsumption AI for all NPCs, which is computationally expensive and difficult to simplify. So it's a big load on the server. Virtual AI allows virtual NPCs, or VNPCs, to transition between background quantum AI and fully realized subsumption AI when players can observe them. So when you're near a virtual NPC, it will become a real NPC, and it'll have all the traits and proficiencies that it's supposed to have, and it'll have that subsumption layer, so it'll be intelligent as well, not just a back-end system. It'll actually have things that it's supposed to do. And then when you move away, it will go back to being a VNPC. So VMPs are always executing their logic, and they're very computationally effective and cloud-based. They even evolve over time. VMPCs can gain bounties, crimes, and resources like any players. Mission NPC gain crime stats within comm arrays if they kill a player and get a live tracker attached to them. This is the example they used. If it's within the comm array range. If there are no players, like Port Olisar and the comm array get streamed out, so it's not taxing the server. And the mission NPC transitions into a virtual NPC. The marker for it still remains, so if you're doing a bounty on them, it'll still remain in that area for you. There is an upcoming app that will give you the last known positioning, history, current positioning in a comm array, and crime details on the bounty that you'll be able to use in the mobiGlass. Other virtual AI will react and respond to these criminal AI, fighting them or reporting their positions through a beacon, asking for assistance. And as the criminal behavior persists, the greater quanta system will take into account the behaviors in certain areas, and cost risk will fluctuate based on VMPC behavior. So to break that down, if the NPC gets a crime stat, let's say, it will continue down that path most likely, and it could continue building its crime stat and building its bounty and reputation. NPCs will avoid areas that risk, is at. Or they may even bring in bounty hunter NPCs to try to catch this, NPC that's causing all this havoc. So it's a fully laid out system. It's really awesome sounding. Anyways, it should be really awesome. Most VMPC behaviors have very little tax on the system since it's not being rendered, which is huge. If VMPCs on the back end travel to Port Olisar to hide, sell, or drink, and a player visits Port Olisar, they will find the VMPC at Port Olisar now rendered in because they were streamed in along with everything else when that player arrived at Port Olisar. So players can also quantum snare VMPCs. So if you're sitting out there and you're using like a Mantis or something, and you know that this guy's probably traveling between Port Olisar and Yella because maybe that it likes to prey on all these miners from Yella. Well, you can set up a quantum snare halfway between and possibly pull this guy out of quantum, and he will render in and you'll have a fight on your hands, most likely. Or he'll try to run or whatever. So that's really cool that the VMPCs will work on the back end, and then when they get close enough to a player, they'll become fully fledged NPCs and render into the game for you to deal with. Part 3 that he talked about were dynamic events. So this is several different versions, like modular, global, synchronized across servers, etc. Quantum will be able to start events like Xenothreat all on its own, based on local VMPC behaviors. Quasar is a new tool that lets CIG manage dynamic events in the live game. Quasar will automatically contextualize the type of enemies in certain locations. Quasar can track real-time data and allow adjustments. Quasar can overrule the local economy stocks to nudge quantum into different directions or force the system to react. So they can use Quasar here to kind of put in one of these dynamic events, or adjust a dynamic event so that certain things have to be met before it's over. They can also use it to adjust the quantum and all the NPCs out there, to avoid that area or whatever. If Xenothreat's in that area, they're going to want to avoid it. It can also say, oh, well, this area has had a lot of criminal activity, so now the price of alcohol in the area is really, really, really high because nobody's been able to get it there, or food or whatever. So it can actually, they could use this Quasar program to change the economy that will actually boost certain events into happening. So let's say it's alcohol that goes for a lot of money. Then you'll have pirates that are preying on players that are bringing in alcohol because they'll want to sell it for the highest amount or whatever. You get the idea. That's probably a horrible analogy. So yeah. Your mobiGlas will have a commodity price alerts for when location is very low on supplies and ask for help, offering increased buying prices. This functionality will extend to other things. If you didn't notice in 3.13.1, this is already in. They already have this in, and they're getting prepared for the Ninetales event that should happen in June. So Ninetales will effectively cut off certain areas, and it'll be our jobs to either bring in supplies, take them out, or if you want to be, on the outlaw side, your job is to keep people from, entering that area, or maybe exacting some sort of, toll. They should have a lot of different options available for us. So phases can dynamically change shop-related information, including which items they buy and sell, supply and demand, and prices. In the next few months, prices will fluctuate based on missions being offered, and you will be able to view price alerts in your journal. So that's fantastic news. They say in the coming months, so it's going to happen really soon. Pirate, security, and freighter curves affect each other within a given area. So the increase of piracy may increase security NPCs spawning and decrease freighter NPCs. Quantum travel can be limited based on the danger in that area. So I kind of already discussed that. So in conclusion, Bounty Hunter version 2 will be the first use of this virtual AI. Quantum will begin simulating some bits of data later on this year. So that's what you have to look forward to. I know I kind of rushed through that and I glossed over some parts, but we're already almost 20 minutes into this video. And I did the best of breaking it down as simply as I could. I still recommend you go and watch the video. It's really fantastic. Tony Z knows his stuff. He's the one you want to listen to when this stuff is being talked about, because he's got his hands in all of it. So guys, I definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you like this video. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Really helps my channel on the algorithm. If you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon or my YouTube members. It's going to be in the description down below. Also, if you're looking into getting into the game, now's the perfect time. They've got discounted starting packages, $40 for an Aurora. You get 120 months insurance on that thing, so that's phenomenal. Yeah, it's at a discount. Use my referral code. That's going to be listed in the description of the video as well, and you'll get a bonus 5,000 credits when you do that. So definitely check out. Now's the time to get in. Things are starting to heat up. Things are starting to get exciting, and they've got that discount that you really can't beat. So thank you again. I'm Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy, and I'll see you out in the verse.